location. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Sally McGee. You already know that. And so I'm going to go ahead and share some information today about my women's program for women in construction and engineering. It's called the Alignment Solution. And I've got a little slide deck that kind of walks us through what the program is all about and hopefully answer some questions along the way. And I would just encourage you, please ask questions. We can make this interactive. Just ask away if you've got any questions as we go along. So let me go ahead and share my slides on the right screen. And yeah, here we go. So as I mentioned, this is a leadership program for women in engineering and construction. It's called the Alignment Solution. And the program that's open now is the spring 2025 version, and the workshop dates, which you'll hear a little bit more about the course features, but there's 6 workshops. They start on March 13th and they run through May 22nd. So it's a really comprehensive program that runs about 2.5 months long. So this is the spring version that I've got open for registration right now. So as I mentioned, most people who will be listening to this or watching or participating today already know me. I'm Sally McGee. I've got 25 years of industry experience. I am a licensed professional engineer by background. So engineering project management was kind of the first half of my career, and then I switched directions and have been really in the leadership development and executive coaching field for about the past 15 years. The course itself draws on some amazing resources that you see kind of up here on the screen. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. I'm certified as a Myers-Briggs practitioner, if you're familiar with MBTI. Or Myers-Briggs introvert extrovert, that assessment. I've also done the positive intelligence program training course, which you'll hear a little bit about here. And as a Gallup certified strengths coach, I really have dove into those resources and bring a lot of Gallup research and science to all of my programs that I facilitate. So you'll hear in this course a lot around well-being and Clifton Strengths. And then I draw on a number of other positive psychology and neuroscience programs that I've been exposed to over the years. Some of what you see on the screen, like the Happiness Advantage, Positive Intelligence, This Naked Mind, Tiny Habits, Playing Big. Some of those books and resources are all, I basically take a lot of those resources that are from those books and training programs and really incorporate that into the program itself. So for the spring 2020 to 25 version, this is the 4th time I'll be delivering this program. So I'm excited to kick off another one for 2025. It starts and ends with one-on-one leadership coaching. So at the end of February, early March, before the first workshop, there'll be a one-on-one leadership coaching session, and then it's bookended. So there's another one-on-one coaching session at the end of the program to kind of incorporate everything that you've learned. In between are the 6 virtual workshops. They are group training, group coaching workshops that are 90 minutes each. They're scheduled. You'll see a schedule here at the end of the slides with all of the program dates, but they're scheduled every other Thursday morning for those of us that are on the West Coast, lunchtime for those that are on the East Coast, and they're every other Thursday. So they're spaced out enough where you've got a little bit of pre-work or some homework following one session, a couple action items and some learning to incorporate over the next 2 weeks, and then we've got another session. That's basically how the flow of the program works. So 2 leadership coaching sessions, 6 virtual group workshops, and really the whole program is built on networking and broadening your network with other high achieving women in the industry. I have pulled to create this course from clients that I have. Most of you know me as a partnering facilitator. So I do partnering workshops with companies, organizations, projects all around the country. And I basically assemble the participants for this course, kind of taking one from this client or one from this project and one from this organization, and assemble a group that really is comprised of high achieving women in the industry. And it's limited to 12 participants maximum. Usually I have around 8 to 10, really to optimize the learning and the networking experience. So it's a small cohort. It's not a group that's, say 100 people that some other programs might be built around. The curriculum I've designed, I'm calling this the alignment solution. The next slide shows the framework around the align curriculum. And it's really to help you identify your unique leadership style in alignment with your strengths, your core values, and your authenticity. So if you've heard of Clifton Strengths, 2 of the Clifton Strengths reports are included, which is a personality assessment that identifies your natural talents, which I'm going to share a little bit more about in the next couple of slides. I mentioned the workshop dates. We're starting the first group workshop on March 13th. So the first coaching session would be a week or 2 before that. And then the last session, number 6, is on May 22nd. That should say 2025 right here on that slide. First coaching session, as I mentioned, in early March as we start the program. So we've got a couple weeks away to get everything lined up. The deadline for registration is February 21st. So we've got, like I said, kind of a couple weeks away. And then the tuition is $22.95 for the 3-month, 2.5 to 3-month course of learning experience. So that's a little bit about the features of the course. The curriculum is built on what I call this alignment solution. Each workshop is based on this framework. So workshop 1 is the A in alignment, is around authenticity and self-awareness. Workshop 2 is your leadership lens and limiting beliefs, which is the L. The I is the intersection. This is workshops 3 and 4. So the intersection of well-being and core values. Well-being is workshop 3. Core values is workshop 4. I've got someone else joining in the waiting room here. Let me let her in. Glad I saw that pop up there. So that's workshops 3 and 4. Workshop 5 is on growth mindset. And then workshop 6 is the N, is called Nevertheless, She Persisted, which is a little bit of a feminist saying, if you're familiar with that. This is not a course on feminism, but just to just to show that's where the N comes from, if you're familiar with that saying of Nevertheless, She Persisted. It's all about building resilience and having a persistent mindset. So the first workshop is around authenticity and self-awareness. And Lily, thanks for joining. If you could just go ahead and mute yourself, that would be great. And we started a little bit late, so please ask questions along the way. I'm just rolling in here with the first part of the curriculum, which is around self-awareness and building authenticity based on your Clifton strengths. Just a quick show of hands. Lily, you can turn your camera on if you'd like. Anyone heard of Clifton strengths before? Or is this a new? Okay, Julia, you've heard of this. Good. I use, as a Gallup certified strengths coach, I use Clifton Strengths with all of my one-on-one coaching clients, and many organizations, in fact, over 90% of Fortune 500 companies use Clifton Strengths. Oh, Lily is raising her hand. You've heard of this too. Use Clifton Strengths as a way to engage employees and boost team performance. So why Clifton Strengths? There are many tools out there for personality assessments and for growth and development. Clifton Strengths is really where business is going, is from a positive psychology aspect. Over 30 million people have taken the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment, and it's based on 4 decades of research. So if you're familiar with Gallup as an organization, the Gallup poll, many people are familiar with. That's the basis of this tool called Clifton Strengths. It is human-centric. The other part of it is that it doesn't narrow people into small boxes. For example, Myers-Briggs, you might say I'm an introvert or an extrovert. Clifton Strengths is much more comprehensive than that. In fact, there's 34 strengths. And as part of the program, you get 2 different reports. You get your all 34 report, which describes all 34 of these strengths that are on the screen here. That in ranked order. So you receive a report that's got your top 1 through 34, and we really focus on those dominant talents. The talents are based on 4 different domains. They're called strategic thinking, influencing, how we speak up and take charge, Strategic thinking is all around how we take in information and make decisions with that information. Relationship building are the blue ones. That's all about how we keep the team greater than the sum of its parts. And then executing is how we get things done. So those are the purple ones that you see up there on the screen. So why Clifton strengths? So people who are focused on using their strengths are 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life, and who doesn't want that? 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs, almost 8% more productive in their roles, and 6 times as likely to do what they do best every day. And then lastly, teams who receive strengths feedback have almost 9% greater profitability. So that's a little bit of the reasons why I use Clifton Strengths as the basis for this program. You get, as I mentioned, you get 2 reports. You get your all 34 report, which shows that ranked order. And then you get the leadership report, which is all around how you use your dominant talents in your leadership role. So it's a separate report. It's a separate cost for me, which I just roll into the tuition for the program. And it gives you a little bit more insight into those dominant talents. And the whole idea here is about being your best self and being your authentic self, and leading with authenticity is all around this first module in the course. Is, about being our best selves. You don't have to be a different person to be successful. You don't have to be all things to all people. You can't be anything you want to be, but you can be more of who you are. And when you understand your strengths and your talents and what they bring to the table, that's how we can learn how to be a better version, a more authentic leader with yourself and in alignment with your strengths and core values. So that's workshop 1. What I'm going to do is just kind of walk through a little bit higher level on the rest of the workshops in the series. But please stop me along the way. Thank you, Naomi, for joining. Stop me along the way if you have questions. I'll just kind of pause there real quickly to see, does Clifton Strengths make sense? Julia, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, Clifton Strengths make sense. The second part of the assessment, where it's more of the holistic view of how it fits together, is that a survey that's given to people around you, or is that still based on questions and answers of your own?
That is, so there's 2 reports that I give is based on the same assessment. It's based on the Clifton Strengths assessment that you would do. So that you get your all 34, and then it's a comprehensive 25-page report. And then you get a separate report that's called Clifton Strengths for Leaders, which is all about your leadership lens. And it's not a separate assessment. It's not a 360 like you might be thinking of.
That's what I'm trying to think. Is it a 360?
Yeah. No, not doing a 360 here. No. It's just a separate report from Gallup that takes your Clifton Strengths, so all of your results, and then applies it to a leadership perspective.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. All right. The next ones I'll go through kind of quickly. I want to make sure I'm cognizant of our time here. But workshop 2 is all around the leadership lens and your limiting beliefs. Are you guys familiar with that concept of limiting beliefs, or kind of those beliefs that we might have subconsciously that say, well, I'm not good enough, not smart enough? Naomi, go ahead. You took yourself off of mute. Familiar with this? Oh, we can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Now we can hear you.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, just being a female in a male-dominated career industry, sometimes age difference in between, your team setting. I don't know, insert A, B, C. Yes.
Right. Yes, exactly. So yeah, whether your age, your gender, anything that is basically holding you back. So what we do in workshop 2 is we talk about that leadership lens, whether it's gender, age. We all the participants in the course are all female, so we all have that in common in terms of gender. But we look at what are our lenses by which we see our leadership roles and see the world. And then we go through this PQ is this positive intelligence aspect of the course, where it's an understanding that your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And most of our worst enemy comes from our own limiting beliefs. So PQ is based on this work of Shirzad Shamim. It's called Positive Intelligence. It's PQ, like IQ, EQ. This is PQ. And it's based on cognitive behavioral psychology, a positive psychology approach, performance science, and neuroscience, kind of all wrapped in together, where PQ, you do another assessment as part of the course that measures the relative strength of these two modes of your mind. And what I do in the course is kind of teach you to limit your self-sabotaging voice by changing your thoughts and thinking new thoughts with intention through this mental fitness type of approach where you can master your own mind. So it's moving from the left-hand side of the screen of that graphic to the right-hand side of, if you have a self-sabotaging voice and a high PQ score, or sorry, a low PQ score, then you're self-sabotaging, those limiting beliefs are getting the best of you. And how do we really manage those inner thoughts so you can have more self-mastery? That's a very, very high level, very quick overview of what PQ is, but those are some of the strategies that I teach in Module 2. And then Lily and Naomi, you joined a little bit late. Each of the workshops that I'm walking through are 90 minutes. So I gave you kind of a 5-minute spiel on the first two. This is really just intended to give you a little splash into what the curriculum looks like, following that alignment curriculum. So that's workshop 2 is the L in align. And then workshop 3 and 4 are all about well-being and core values. So the intersection, what I call the intersection of well-being and core values. The first one, workshop 3, is a focus on well-being. I mentioned that I really pull in a lot of the Gallup research, and this module is based on a book that was issued, and a lot of the research around well-being at work is what the name of the book is, by Gallup. And what they basically have studied, so Gallup has studied over 98% of the world's population, which is just absolutely insane that they've done that much research, and have really distilled it down into say that there's 5 areas where people are thriving for people to be thriving in their lives. There's 5 areas to focus. Physical well-being is that you have the energy to get things done. Career well-being is defined by you like what you do every day. Social well-being is defined by having meaningful relationships in your life. Financial well-being is about managing your money well. And then community well-being is that you like where you live. So in module 3 or workshop 3 of the program, we go through each of the 5 well-being elements. We talk about, where are you today in terms of a ladder, if your life were a ladder from with 10 rungs, and you're like, which rung would you be standing on today in each of the 5 elements? And then which rung do you want to be standing on 1 year from now, 5 years from now, and what kind of changes would you want to be making to be thriving in your life? So we look at all 5 of those well-being elements. And then we look at a comparison in workshop 4 of core values. So I'm sure you're familiar with that term of core values. Those are your non-negotiables. These are the things that you are the most near and dear to your heart and your life. And when you're living in alignment with your strengths, your core values, and living an aligned life, that's how we can really thrive. But we need to understand what those core values are. So I give a quick kind of exercise. It looks like sticky notes. This is the handout for it. That looks like here's a whole selection with definitions of different core values. And I also give a couple websites that you can do a little bit more research also if you don't like the ones that you see on the screen. There's tons to choose from. And we narrow it down into your top 5. And we do this is just an example of the worksheet that I use that you kind of rank your core values. Where are they being fed? And like, how would you rank them on a day-to-day basis on a scale of 1 to 10? So then we take kind of the overlap of your core values and your well-being elements, the 5 elements of well-being, and see where are the intersections? Are there gaps? Are there overlaps? And we go back to that ladder reference of where do you want to be standing on that rung of ladder on your life 1 year from now, 5 years from now. And we set some action steps. Some of those action steps are based on the Tiny Habits method. I'm curious if anyone's heard of Tiny Habits by Dr. BJ Fogg.
No.
So yeah, this is a great book. The real easy way to think about this is like by incorporating tiny habits into your life. For example, like habit stacking is one thing. Like you stack something onto a routine that you already have, like something that you do every single day, and add a tiny habit on top of or tiny action on top of that habit, on top of that action that you're already doing. And that's what can lead to big change. For example, here's mine that I use personally. My coffee maker, I have this like fancy coffee machine and it takes probably a minute to run through its like cleaning cycle before it actually will produce coffee. So in that 1 minute, I do push-ups against my counter. It's like
Awesome.
it's a silly little like it's a tiny habit, but I've built up, some muscles in my aging arms. And I do 10 or 12 push-ups against I mean, I can't do push-ups on the floor, but I can do them against my countertop. And so I've made the habit a tiny habit. I can do it in 1 minute. And if I have coffee 2 or 3 times a day, then I'm doing, 20, 30 push-ups a day, which is pretty good. So it's by incorporating a very small habit that you can lead to big change over time. And I have started to notice, some differences in myself. That's just one example. Like if you drink coffee every day, or if you want to run a 5K, how can you start with a tiny habit like walking around your block every day? Or starting from a walk and then moving to a jog, right? So it's the idea of start small and like really narrow it down into something that's very tiny and doable for you, so you're not overwhelmed by making huge change. So that's the real quick gist of tiny habits. So we talk about that in the course. All right, let me see how much more I've got here and how much time. I think I've got enough time to do workshops 5 and 6. So workshop 5 is all about growth mindset, which you might be familiar with. Fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Fixed mindset leaders fall apart when confronted with failure. They make excuses. They tend to blame and point fingers at others, where growth mindset leaders focus on learning and growing yourself, and where success is about the journey, not the destination. You can apply that to your team. So focusing on what they have learned through the experience. A growth mindset leader is all about focusing on learning and growth, where mistakes are okay, and where you're not pointing fingers and blaming, and looking at where's the opportunity to grow and to learn in for long-term success. So that's kind of the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. There are some other mindset hacks. I'm just cognizant of our time here that we talk about in workshop 5. This is the G in the alignment curriculum, workshop 5. And then let me go pretty quickly to workshop 6. I mentioned this is workshop 6 is called Nevertheless She Persisted, is where we kind of bring it all together and say, well, how can we take everything that we've learned and really be resilient and be authentic and be resilient in our lives. So we talk in workshop 6 kind of about 3 things, three different topics covered in workshop 6. 1 is about building resilience. 2 is about preventing burnout. And then the third one is what I call 10 rules for brilliant women, which is kind of the wrap up to the whole program. But the first part is about building resilience. And what does resilience really mean? The second part is about using your Clifton strengths for preventing burnout. And this is where the leadership report comes back in. Julia, you mentioned the leadership, you asked about the leadership report earlier. This is a snapshot of one of the things that you get as far as your Clifton strengths reports. You get action items that are specific for each of your dominant talents. So the reflection here, one of the things that we cover here in the last workshop is this one is specifically for responsibility talents, but it really applies to every part of our lives. Is the reflection of what am I committed to that I need to keep, and what do I need to let go of? Because this is a strategy to prevent burnout. Is many times when as women leaders, we overcommit, right? And whether you have commitments at home, commitments at work, we tend to be overcommitting ourselves. So the reflection here in the last workshop is about what do I need to let go of? What am I committed to? So my well-being elements and my core values and my strengths, but what do I need to let go of in order to be resilient and to prevent burnout from happening in the first place? And then the last one is called, the last kind of segment in the class is called 10 Rules for Brilliant Women. I'll just do a quick snapshot of them here real quick. I don't have time to explain them all, but the reference here is by a book called Playing Big by Tara Moore. And she just talks about like 10 rules for brilliant women. And I tend to attract brilliant women. that's who this course is built for. It's built for brilliant women in the industry who need to recognize and see their own brilliance. So that's what kind of the culmination of the course is all about. And really, it's about building this authenticity in our leadership, where a strengths-based life has benefits that extend beyond your own self-knowledge and self-confidence. By expressing your strengths, that's what helps build positive relationships and has a beneficial impact on others that you interact with throughout the day. And then making a positive contribution to the world around you by showing up as your best self. And that's where we are all in alignment with our strengths, our values, our beliefs, our behaviors are all in alignment with your authentic self. So that really this is, like I said, the last segment of the workshop that really pulls in everything that you heard from self-awareness, from Clifton Strengths, the limiting beliefs, and your leadership lens, the 5 elements of well-being, the core values, the growth mindset, the building resilience and persistence is that last workshop. So it's really bringing in all of those aspects, and that's how we can live in alignment with our authentic self. And that's how we become better leaders. That's the conclusion of the course. We become better leaders when we're authentic with ourselves. I'll just kind of pause there and see if there's any questions. I threw a lot of information there. I've got a couple more slides and a couple more minutes, but I'll just pause and see if there's any questions.
No questions.
Okay, excellent. I know I went through that kind of fast. This is one of the last slides from the course itself that really kind of pulls in a lot of the reference materials that I mentioned: well-being at work, playing big, tiny habits, positive intelligence. There's part in the language, but there's a podcast I really love that's called Unfuck Your Brain, which is, I build in this ladder thinking idea. I mentioned the ladder reference earlier, how to think new thoughts. So I incorporate some of that thinking. So a bunch of books, a bunch of podcasts. One of my Clifton strengths is called input. Input needs output. Input collects information and has resources and references for people. It needs output. So this is my output, or my way of expressing my input talent is by providing resources for people. So that's just a snapshot of kind of where a bunch of stuff that I pulled from over the years that I've been learning about myself and to develop the course curriculum. So feel free to, I'll actually send out these slides afterwards, so you don't need to take a screenshot of that. This is a screenshot. Let's see if I got all the dates. Whoops, I missed a 5 there from from 2025 to 2024. These are that should say 2025, but the rest of these here are all the correct dates for all of the workshops that are coming up. Like I said, the first one on March 13th, so we've got a little bit of time. And then just some feedback. I mentioned, I think before a couple of you joined, that this is the fourth group that I'll be running. So I've gotten some previous, feedback from previous participants. All of them have rated it a 5 out of 5. They've all recommended it to a colleague, and most of them, I think all of them have. And Naomi, you're one of those that have been recommended from a previous participant. You probably know who that is. And just some of the commentary here, that it contained more information and insight than they had expected. Excellent program, learned a great deal about myself, space for everyone to be included, strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots. So a couple of the highlights there. I would just comment, one of the other reasons why I built the curriculum the way that I did is because a lot of the positive intelligence and the positive psychology aspects, I'm an engineer, and I know some of you are also, and this is not stuff that we get in engineering school. You may have taken an intro to psych class, but this is all about leadership, and it is heavy in the psychology aspect, because we don't get that learning and that training in other places. So I just built a lot of the curriculum around things that I was hearing coaching women in the industry, and hearing some of the limiting beliefs, and hearing and experiencing firsthand as their coach, um, the things that they were struggling with. And so I said, well, why don't I put together a curriculum so that we can learn some of those tools together as a cohort, and be able to tackle, like, understand what are those leadership lenses that we all wear, and be able to tackle some of those limiting beliefs, and give you different tools to be able to tackle that, along with understanding my strengths and where my blind spots are. So I intended to go just about 45 minutes, and I'll show you, I go maybe 2 minutes over. But I'll include this in the slides. I did put together just a template if you want to take the course and you want a template to share this with your manager. I'll include, like I said, I'll include this with the slides that go out afterwards. This is just a template to ask for funding support, basically. And that's about it. The tuition is $22.95. The deadline to register is on the 21st. So there's 2 or so weeks. It's 3 Fridays from now. And I would just say thank you. Thank you for showing up today. And I'll stop sharing, and I can go back to any of the slides. What questions do you guys have? Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you. That was really informative, Sally. I know it's been a while. You previously spoke to me about the program, and last year I couldn't attend, but
Oh, that's right.
yeah, but I'm very interested, and yeah, I'd love to. Is there any more information or slides you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I'll send out the slides and this recording to everyone who's on my mailing list, who got the emails about today's webinar. And then if you need more information, we can always hop on a call, or you could stay on. You could stay on if you have more questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lily, what kind of questions do you have? I love your background, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. It's a Sacramento.
Lily and
Yes.
And do Lily and Julia know each other? You guys are both at Caltrans.
I recognize your name, Lily, but I'm right now at headquarters. I was in District 3.
Okay, are you in project delivery?
Yes.
I'm in engineering services, structural construction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I heard about this class from my office chief in structural construction. So I'm not sure if you have worked with the management at Caltrans. I imagine you have, Sally, because
Yeah.
my boss.
Who did you hear from?
Tom Gray.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
he's at 30. He's already been with the state for like 34 years. Such a great guy. So easy to work for. I'm kind of just checking my schedule. I'm teaching a class and it's 1 week off, 1 week on. So
Mhm.
I think that's going to conflict with this particular
Mm.
time that you're delivering the class. So I would
Mhm.
love to be on your mailing list, but I'll reach out to
Okay.
you outside of the,
Okay.
yeah, but I would love to take it because this is the first time my boss has recommended something to me um, uh,
Mm.
in terms of like non-work related personal
Oh,
professional
something
growth.
leadership development.
Yeah, and I worked with him for 5 years. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I will be doing, I do them twice a year, so I'll be doing another cohort in the fall. So if the
cool.
timing doesn't work out, and then just so everyone knows too, all of the sessions are recorded. So if you were to
Okay.
miss, one session or another,
Yeah.
missing all six wouldn't be good.
Well,
But
yeah. Okay. Are there interaction? Are the attendees interacting with each other at these workshops? I
yeah,
assume they
yeah,
are. I don't wanna miss one.
it is very interactive, and I do breakout sessions. So we do a couple breakout questions also so people can really learn from one another and really incorporate what they're learning.
Okay.
It's all on Zoom like this. So I do almost every workshop in the 90 minutes has a breakout session. So people get just pair up as a small group.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Julia, any questions?
No, but it sounds amazing, and thank you for including me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so glad you came today. All right. Well, in the interest of time, Naomi, if you want to stay on, I'll hit the stop button.
I